Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm the Assistant Fort Bend County Law Librarian, and this is one of our classes. And it's kind of short classes where we talk about certain databases and programs that we have on our computers here that are used in the practice of law or representing yourself. And so we want to familiarize people. It's 10 o'clock, so I'll go ahead and get started. And if anybody has a question, please feel free to do so. We do these classes every Thursday, usually. Sometimes we take a break, skip a Thursday, but we do these every week in a sort of a rotating schedule of things. So about once every 6 or 7 weeks, each class comes up. We do one on Lexis, we do one on Westlaw, and those are our two primary legal databases that we subscribe to, and that are available on our computers here at the law library. And we also do some classes on usage of Word and PowerPoint and Adobe in doing legal work. And then obviously on Tuesdays we do classes a little more in depth on some various topics that are pretty say popular topics, I guess, with the pro se folks primarily here at the law library. We deal with classes such as family law and probate and estate, legal research, and civil litigation in a sort of a general sense. And so we do those. There's about 7 or 8 of those classes, and we do those on a rotating basis as well. So about every 2 months or so, each class repeats. So obviously those classes aren't stagnant. We try to, add things to them, or, add slides or add information that's, as things change, or maybe just kind of think of some topics that are to add to presentations to keep them fresh. But hold on one second, we did admit someone in. And yeah, for the person who just joined, for the person who just joined, we're just kind of doing my little introductory deal to what this class is about today. So let me wait for her. Okay, she's in too. So this class concerns what's called HeinOnline, and it's one of our other legal databases. Obviously, Lexis and Westlaw are the heavy hitters and are very broad in what is on offer there. Hein is a little different, but it's got some really interesting features, and I think sometimes things like Hein and some of our other databases get overlooked a little bit because maybe they're a little more niche or don't cover as much as Lexis and Westlaw. We have another one that we don't do programming on because it primarily concerns criminal defense cases. It's called Erisman's, and it's about it essentially assists criminal defense attorneys in defending their cases, and prosecutors can use it as well, but they just generally don't come in our law library. So Hein is one of our databases, and it's available on several of our computers here at the law library, and it's available on the Fort Bend County Wi-Fi. So it's interesting, if you're in the law library and you get on the Fort Bend County Wi-Fi, you can also access Hein just on your own laptop as well. So it gives a little bit of extra coverage as opposed to just what's on our computers. Obviously, we are partly closed or partly open, however you want to look at it, just given the current health situation, and unfortunately things have kind of taken steps back in response to the coronavirus situation. We're only open to attorneys at this point and county staff. They can come in, but we are still assisting everybody via email, via phone, and if a person comes to the Justice Center, comes to our door and knocks, we're glad to assist in that way too. So we're still printing up forms for people or talking with people and getting their information, and then maybe sending things to them via email. So, we're still doing that every day. And so even though things are a bit inconvenient at the time, both, from the aspect of the law library and just the Justice Center and a lot of other offices, has been impacted by this. So apologize for sort of the current situation, but we just got to deal with what we're dealing with. I'm always, available by phone or email, glad to help. Our phone number here is 281-341-3718. And my email address is Jonathan, JONATHAN .Briggs, BRIGGS at fortbend.lib.tx.us. And you can also go on our law library page on the main library website, and our contact information is on there as well. And we have a Facebook page too. So let's talk a little bit about Hein. Sometimes I don't know if y'all remember the Christmas special that was on. I think it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and they had what was called the Island of Misfit Toys. And I sort of call Hein a little bit like that, because what it offers is a little bit, let's say, eclectic, but it's just a lot of some disparate stuff. It's just things that they have gained access to that they're able to put on their website. Like I said, a little different than Lexis and Westlaw, who kind of provides total coverage of everything, statutes and cases and secondary resources, it definitely all across Texas, and a lot of depth across the federal system and the various states and so forth. Hein has a lot of what that has, and it has a few other different interesting things as well. I would look at Hein as not just a legal database, but somewhat of a legal history and history database, what it has to offer. And let me look at some of the things that are somewhat similar to Lexis and Westlaw that it also offers. If you look here on the computer, I'm here at the Browse Databases by Name. So it has legal journals, law journals, and so forth, really from every state and the national journals, such as the American Bar Association journals and journals that have national coverage. Obviously, there's also law review articles that cover various states. So, the University of Texas or the University of Houston or Baylor University, they have law review journals as well, and those are completely accessible. So let's take a look at kind of what they have here. We go into the Browse Databases by Name, and let's look at core U.S. journals. And what that means is, journals that are, the essential law review journals that are in the United States. So we're going to go look at state by state. So I hit state, and now it has a roster of all the states in the union, including the District of Columbia. So let's go down, since we're here in Texas, and that sort of has the most relevance probably to what anybody here in Texas would be using. So let's go to Texas. And then they're just listed in alphabetical order, I believe. And so obviously close to the top, you have the Baylor Law Review. And it shows the coverage over here on the right, covers it from 1948 through 2019. I'm not sure if Baylor's published a law review journal yet in 2020. They probably, if they haven't, they will be soon, probably covering the spring or summer, and we'll be putting that online. So sometimes it takes a little while for them to catch up, because the way that they put them in here is it's essentially a PDF of the printed journal itself. So if we go to Baylor Law Review, I clicked on there, and so, they do have some stuff. They haven't updated their page, but they have put a 2020 journal on there. They've got number 1 so far on there. So you click on that. This is volume 72. They've been doing this for, I guess, 72 years. And so now here is the most recent copy. This is winter 2020. So this probably came out sometime like February or something like that. And it's really just a PDF of the actual book, Law Review Journal, as you would see it if it was on the shelf. And we subscribe to that Law Review Journal here as well. So we get it in paper form. But, then you can just go through it as a PDF, or you can, look at the various articles that are in this journal and go to that. And so then, it's just like it's been scanned into the system. And then, of course, you can, if you were here, if you wanted to print it or download it, you go to the delivery bar up here, or if you wanted to email a copy of this PDF link to yourself, you could do that as well. So you could have it for later reference at home or your office. So it's, and obviously you can then search within, if you look at this search bar up here at the top, just like, the Google search bar or the search bar that you would find on Westlaw or Lexis, you can search for topics, you can just, whatever it happens to be. Say you're searching for summary judgment or continuances or whatever, you would put it in there, and they would search. They can, you can search, excuse me one second. You could search within all those core U.S. journals, or you could search in the Baylor Law Review as well to narrow your search. So, and it covers, like I said, you want to look up the North Carolina Law Review Journal or California or whatever. It's got pretty strong coverage across the entire United States for that, going back many years. So that's something that would be common to both Lexis and Westlaw. Another thing that is also available is, let's look for it, the Code of Federal Regulations. So this is something that I'm circling it here and I'll link to it there. Code of Federal Regulations, it's part of the federal laws. It would be on the Lexis and Westlaw databases. It's very voluminous, so we don't have that in paper version here, but you'll find it in government repository libraries, of which some are like say South Texas College of Law, where I went to law school. They had a basement and they had this stuff down there in paper form. Like I said, it's very voluminous because Code of Federal Regulations kind of puts the meat on the bones of a lot of federal statutes. So say you had the statutes that cover OSHA statutes, occupational safety and health, things about the protection of workers and regulations regarding that. So you're going to have some fairly broad law in like the United States Code, but then this kind of gets to the details. So, say if you wanted to find out what the federal regulations are regarding fall protection, say if a worker is working, high up on a roof or something like that, what are the requirements what kind of fall protection do they have to have, or what are regulations regarding worker uses of ladders or something like that. And so the nitty-gritty details can be found in the Code of Federal Regulations across all the broad topics that are covered in the U.S. Code. I think the U.S. Code has something like 50 separate titles covering things from defense, and obviously there's the Constitution in the U.S. Code, just all manner of things, civil rights litigation, many, many topics. And so you can search by looking for year, and then you look at the various titles. So just these match up, with what's in the U.S. Code, and then you just kind of go from there. You make your subcategories. I picked labor there. Let's see. Pick the labor code, and then it's like I said, you got to do a little bit of work to look for, but you can then look for the subsections on particular areas under the labor code, and then you add that in, and one second. Anyway, this is the CFR. You access the details of the Code of Federal Regulations in that. Let's go back to the main page here. So they got kind of a search databases by category. They sort of have about 10 broad categories: U.S. federal, U.S. state materials, but they also got a lot of stuff that centers on United Kingdom and Canada, kind of the common law countries, that we have our same genesis from a lot of our law in the law of the United Kingdom or England. That's kind of how our English common law served as the basis for a lot of how our system is structured as well. So there's materials related to English law, and then you kind of get down into a little more specific. So some of the other kind of, like I said, sort of the island of misfit toys things, but some of it's very interesting. We have this thing called the National Survey of State Laws, and we actually have this in hardback publication as well. We get a copy every year, but you can look it up on here. So this covers a lot of the different areas of the law, and obviously from state to state there can be differences on that, on how each state enforces their laws and what the laws are. Obviously things like drug laws have kind of been in flux over the last few years, changing things, say in relationship to marijuana, decriminalization at a certain level. But let's just say you want to look at the drunk driving laws across the states. And so it lists it just in kind of a spreadsheet type form, and it goes in alphabetical order, and it goes state by state, and it goes through various topics. So, you look at Alabama, the code sections of their statutes that cover drunk driving and what their legal limits are and so forth. and some other, specifics about how that state handles that offense. What happens to your driver's license? Does it get suspended? What are possible penalties and so forth? So there's a lot of different areas, and you go through and you can kind of compare stuff. And it covers about, I don't know, 50 or 100 different areas. How does each state handle, what are their legal holidays? What are lemon laws here related to the purchase of vehicles? And, if the vehicle turns out to be a lemon, what are the statutes in that state and how that's handled? Or marijuana laws, as I talked about earlier, or the marriage age requirements. So you look at, again, looking at the various states, what are the, minimum ages that people can get married, and what are the circumstances regarding certain lower ages? If you're 16, does it have to be with parental consent? So each state has some variations, of course. So it's a very interesting little deal. I remember I had to do a project somewhat similar to that, to look at when I worked as a law clerk, looking at the laws of all the states for federal class action lawsuits. So if you're going to have a federal class action lawsuit, you had to show a commonality amongst the various causes of action that you're bringing across all the states to show that a class action would be proper. And so one of the things like I looked at was negligence. And so that's a common issue in civil litigation, civil law, negligence, car wreck cases and all kind of stuff, premises liability. So then it goes through each state and looks at their negligence laws, looks at, the issues of, say, contributory and comparative negligence and so forth. So, just a really very interesting thing, and can be very helpful. From a historical standpoint, if I was a law professor, I would definitely subscribe to HeinOnline, because they get the law review journals, but they also get a lot of history stuff. Like I said, it's a bit of a mix of what's on here. We've got the things such as the Pentagon Papers, for those of us old enough to remember when that actually happened, or for those of us who've read it in history. These were papers that were released to the public by kind of a whistleblower, for lack of a better word, about the Vietnam War and about what was going on inside the Defense Department, as opposed to what was being aired to the public through the press. And it was somewhat different. They'd said to the press, everything's, this is how well it's going, and this is, how many victories we've had, and how many, Viet Cong soldiers have been killed, and things are going well. And meanwhile, internally, they were saying this is not going so great, and things are going badly, and so forth. And obviously, the disconnect between what was being put out there publicly to the American people and what was really going on behind the scenes, were two different things. And so, just from a historical standpoint, they got the entire Pentagon Papers on this website. Similar thing, they have things related to, let's see here, we're trying to find it real quick. Slavery in America. So there's a lot of materials related to slavery in the United States from a historical and legal standpoint. There's periodicals from, definitely, pre-Civil War periodicals discussing the issue, slavery statutes, judicial cases that looked at the slavery issue, both some that are very well known to us, like the Dred Scott case in the Supreme Court in the 1850s, and some other cases from the various states that looked at that issue. So, again, that's, from more of an historical standpoint, there's, if we look here, there's, let me close that. There's stuff also, related to other states, state statutes, early American case law. So there's just a lot of different stuff. It's worth looking at. If you're starting some research on a particular issue, don't forget to stop in and look at Hein as well. There's materials here from the U.S. presidential libraries that are here. There's obviously U.S. statutes that tie in with the Code of Federal Regulations. There's materials from the U.S. Supreme Court library, things related to U.S. treaties. Something that's also a little more practical from sort of the practice of law side of things is the state attorney general reports. And so each state has an attorney general who's an executive in the executive branch of the government. And from time to time, they're asked to issue opinions on legal issues. And so and they do so. And so Texas does that. Somebody will ask, somebody within the state of Texas, sometimes it might be a local office holder. I don't know if it was in response to a local office holder, but let's just say the whole mask issue. Maybe a local judge would, maybe send a request to the state attorney general saying, if I decide to implement this kind of, mask rule for people wearing masks in response to the coronavirus, would that, what does Texas law state on my ability to do that? And basically give them somewhat of a legal opinion on the issue. And so we can look at Texas, and they have legal, these opinions going back like 160 years. So this is, something that's been in existence for a long time. So let's look at the opinions that have been issued. Obviously, you can search. Again, you can search across it through topic. But here we have in 2020, there's been some issued by Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas. And so it says this one was from a House representative, I think he's from the Houston area. Garnett Coleman had sent the Attorney General a request talking about the distribution of county transportation funds. And so they ask, he asked a question of the Attorney General, what is, the Attorney General's opinion on this issue in law? And the Attorney General then answers that question. And then these pages, again, are scanned in PDF format. So again, and it covers the entire United States. So again, kind of an interesting topic that is covered by HeinOnline. So let me unmute everybody here, or if anybody has a question, I'd be glad to do so. Answer any questions you have. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, hi.
The reason I signed up for this class is obviously to understand how to navigate these databases to get information. One, for personal reasons,
Sure.
I want to just try to create a will, or just be able to just write down something on paper and say, this is what I want, because I'm just not in a financial position to get an attorney to do it for me.
Sure.
I thought this would help. And then the second thing is, I recently got voted to be on the board of our homeowners association.
Okay.
So just trying to figure out how to write documents to protect us in case someone says, I wanted to, I don't know, go to the pool. We've closed the pool because of Corona.
Right.
They paid their dues. We do have an attorney, but a lot of stuff that he sends, I have to look up things just to understand half of what he has sent.
Sure.
But just some type of way to communicate and say this is a legal document that we've put together stating, hey, if you do go to the pool, it's at your own risk.
Yeah.
Because if they
I would think that would be something that the attorney would be, if you say, hey, can you come up with some, postings that we can put up, on our, on our, maybe the neighborhood Facebook page, or however y'all communicate that way. And just obviously on the gate of the homeowners association, of the pool area or other common facilities. I would think that would be, something that the attorney should be doing. Or, obviously, I don't know if your homeowners association has a management company that, something that they should really be coming up with to put on there.
Okay.
I'm familiar with homeowners associations, just like, everybody else has to deal with them and so forth. And obviously it's, something that comes up, homeowner association law. We do have some publication here, on Texas homeowner association law. Obviously that doesn't help you right now because the library is closed to physical visitors. But I mean, I'm glad to do a certain level of research for someone. As I said, I'll give you my email and my phone number. And if you want to email me, I can send you some materials to the extent of what I can find. I mean, I can't, draft stuff for you. And I know you're not asking for that, but I can, what we are here is a resource of information, and so forth. So if you have a particular request of what I can do as a law librarian, I'd be glad to do it. I can copy maybe pages of the book we have. If there was a particular topic you wanted me to look for, and maybe find those materials, scan them in, and send them to you via email or something like that. Obviously, I would just as a general sense, if you're, on the board of a homeowners association and you're looking for some standard notices to put up, I would, look to your attorney or the management company to assist y'all with that, to come up with some, signage, to cover that deal. I think that's I would think they would be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me give you my email address if you want to write it down. Or we have a couple. Can you write something down?
Yes. I started to write it down earlier.
Yeah.
I missed half of it. I got
I'll go slow.
Jonathan.
I know you, because you came in just a couple minutes after I started. So my email address is Jonathan, JONATHAN, and then dot BRIGGS. So it's Jonathan.Briggs, and then at Fort Bend, FORTBEND .LIB, like library, but just LIB, then .TX.US. So
Okay.
Jonathan.Briggs at FortBend.LIB.TX.US.
Okay.
And yeah, please feel free to email me, and I'll be glad to try and find some materials for you. But I would, first recommend that y'all approach your management company or your lawyer to, draft, legally sufficient documents to, inform the residents of the closures and the reasons behind them. I would think they would want to, anytime you're informing them of something, whether if there is, other legal backing, let's say there is, a rule that's come down by the county, or other, state or municipality has said, hey, no public pools open, that sort of thing. You'd want to also say, pursuant to, the recent order of the Fort Bend County judge, we are closing our pools until further notice, something
Okay.
like that. So I would inquire with them first to, come up with some standard signs that would quote or refer to any applicable court orders or orders by the executive branch of the government, such as, like I said, from the governors or the local people. Like if you're in Fort Bend County, the KP George, the Fort Bend County judge, or if you're in Harris County, Judge Hidalgo. Definitely, obviously, if you're doing something that's pursuant to, law or orders of the government, then obviously you want to cite to that as well. So, sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, if we can be of any help to you, like I said, we have our role as law librarians. We can't, kind of do people's legal work, but we're very glad to provide people the information that we have access to. So definitely glad to do that. So let me know if I can do anything for you, okay?
Will do. I know the the research I need to do on the will is my number one priority.
Okay, you have some legal and estate issues.
Mhm.
You have some estate and probate issues. You
I
said a
guess
will?
so. Yes. My father-in-law is in failing health, but they don't have anything,
Right.
nothing written down.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying to help her and seeing what my mother-in-law is going through, that just makes me want to be more proactive to make sure my husband and I have something on paper that tells
Sure.
people what to do with our property and our
Yeah.
kids.
Well, please feel free to send me an email. I can send you some, standard forms. I can send you some information about, just so you have it, whether you utilize it or not, of how to find those type of attorneys. I'll just say, just as a sort of a sidebar, I mean, we can't recommend any particular attorneys. That's not our role, but we can provide information to people so they can maybe seek an attorney if we're in a particular practice area, such as estate and probate and so forth. So I would just say, just in my own personal experience, because this is an area of the law that you know, a lot of people are going to have to deal with at some point in their lives. They're going to have to deal with the estate of a loved one that passes on, or they're going to be preparing themselves for, you know, for what happens, you know, in the future, just to be prepared, such as y'all are thinking about, and so forth. And so, you know, I've found, you know, I know it's all relative, but, you know, some people get daunted sometimes by hiring attorneys because the expense of doing so.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you know, some of the basic documents that you would seek, you know, some standard wills and some other documents from them, I found it to be relatively affordable. It's sort of a la carte type thing. You know, these attorneys who do wills and so forth, they've got a lot of stuff that's already set up. You know, they basically get particulars from you and then sort of plug that stuff into a lot of standard documents that are, you know, they've set up, you know, that are good, you know, currently legal documents. And so, you know, they can do a lot. I found, you know, it's maybe for more affordable than I think some people might think, you know, but don't let that scare you from trying to maybe seek an attorney. You know, like I said, for everybody, money can be tight, but obviously we can provide forms and information, but you know, maybe look into hiring an attorney as well. You know, spending a little, you know, I want to say a little bit, but spending some money, you know, but a relatively, you know, modest amount from what I've seen, you know, to get yourself some peace of mind. So that's just a thought. You know, you can kind of do it both ways. You can, you know, seek to do things on your own, but, you know, maybe look into also the affordability, see if an attorney who can do some standard stuff for you would fit your budget as well. You might be surprised. You know, you can get a lot done on a basic level, and like I said, get that sort of peace of mind, you know, at a fairly reasonable rate compared to some other stuff. So anyway, you got my email address. Please feel free to email me, and I'll be glad to send you information and so forth. We're happy to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you betcha. And also, I'm not sure when it will replay again. As part of our, you know, the classes that we teach, this is sort of one of our shorter classes where we talk about databases and programs, you know, computer programs, you know, that people use in doing their own legal work, you know, such as Word and Adobe. But we also have classes that we teach on Tuesdays on a rotating basis, covering various issues that, you know, are more relevant to self-represented people, such as family law and estate and probate and, you know, civil litigation and legal research and so forth. So we do those on a rotating basis. You might want to, you know, we'll probably be setting our schedule for the next month or two pretty soon, and see what our upcoming classes are. And feel free to email me about that, and I can send you, tell you what the upcoming classes are. If the estate and probate class, you know, like I said, it'll repeat, you know, about every 2 months or so. So, but in the meantime, we're glad to send you information on what you're looking for. So, sound good? Okay, great. Thank you. Bye.